Am I the jerk for having my niece's dress photoshopped because she wore white to my wedding? So I, 30F, got married. Yay! Honestly, it was my dream wedding. Everything went off without a hitch. Except for one small thing. My niece's, 16, dress. It was a white, lacy knee-length dress. She even wore lace elbow-length gloves. Honestly, it looked just like a wedding dress. I didn't say anything to her or her parents, my brother and sister-in-law in the moment, and I tried my best to ignore it. But when I got the first drafts back from our photographer, I couldn't stand when I saw her in her white dress standing next to me. My husband saw how upset I was and suggested that we pay extra to get my niece's dress photoshopped to a light blue. We thought it through, and since we had some budget left, we went for it. Well, last week we got the final photos back and they looked great. I could hardly even tell that my niece was originally wearing white, and she still looked really nice. I posted some of the photos on social media, and my sister-in-law messaged me and was angry that I photoshopped my niece without checking with her, my sister-in-law, first. She accused me of thinking my niece was ugly and of body-shaming her. To be clear, I didn't have her body photoshopped at all, only the color of her dress and gloves. I don't think I'm in the wrong, but this situation has been stressing me out, so am I the jerk? I am no expert in weddings, but I'm pretty sure that people are not supposed to wear white dresses to a wedding. That is, if the bride is wearing a white dress, I guess. So I'm a little surprised that the sister-in-law actually let her niece do that, first of all. The niece may just not have known better. Although she's 16, I feel like that's something you might know, but also might not. So if anything, maybe the sister-in-law is the jerk and not the niece. Honestly, the photoshopping seems like a very tactful way to deal with the pictures. I definitely approve. I do think that mentioning it to your sister-in-law would have been, reasonable, but still, I think it's perfectly fine. They're your photos, not the jerk. Am I the jerk for ambushing my sister at her wedding reception because she told me her wedding was child-free when it actually wasn't? My sister Tracy, 29F, and I, 46M, aren't close, but we have a good relationship. At least before this all happened. Tracy got married recently, and she told me the wedding was child-free. I have a daughter, Ella, 12F, and asked Tracy if she could come, but she said sorry, she and her partner were sticking to the rules. I managed to arrange for Ella to stay at a friend's house for a couple of days since the wedding was in a different city. So I went to the wedding and I saw quite a few older children, including my other siblings' kids. I know this sounds like I should have known from before from my other siblings, but I never thought to ask them, oh, are your kids going? I did ask my brother at the wedding, and he said he was told the child-free limit was only for really young kids, the disruptive ages. It was obvious Tracy lied to me about not bringing Ella. We went through the ceremony, and towards the end of the reception, I pulled Tracy aside and said I realized she'd completely lied to me and there were plenty of other kids. She looked pretty uncomfortable and said it wasn't a big deal, but I replied I deserve an apology and so does Ella at some point. Tracy got mad and said I was ambushing her at her own wedding and it's her and her partner's choice what they do. We ended the conversation there and went off to talk with other people. She sent me a text later saying I was being selfish and I'm the one that should be apologizing to her and her husband for making a big deal out of this. I'll admit I sent a not-so-nice text back about her caring more about aesthetics than people. Now it's sort of blown up within our family. Honestly, I think you're the jerk here. It is absolutely their wedding, their rules. And I get that you would feel lied to because you were told it was child-free and then you saw children. That's fair. I get that. But you didn't have to confront her about it at the wedding. You could have just been upset and talked to her about it later. And then I'm sure it would have been easier to explain to you at the time too that it's yeah, we mostly just meant the younger kids. I'm sorry I didn't make that clear, yada yada. Basically, I think you made a big stink out of this for no reason. And it's just their wedding, their rules. Did you see any other kids around your daughter's age there? I'd bet not. So you didn't really get lied to, you just didn't get the whole picture, and that sucks, but doesn't warrant your reaction. You're the jerk. Am I the jerk for reporting my friend to his work and getting him fired because he refused to give my books back? I, 27F, recently had some friends over at my house for my birthday. I have a book collection with some signed books by relatively famous authors. They're not behind a locked shelf or anything, but they're in my room. After they left, I noticed that a few of my books were gone, and someone mentioned that Jay, 28M, claimed I let him borrow them. I called Jay and yelled at him about lying and stealing my books. He tried to explain that he was taking them to his work, a bookstore, to get them officially appraised, and it was supposed to be a surprise gift. I chewed him out and asked him how that's considered a gift and I wanted the books back. He refused. I told him I will be calling the cops or his work if he doesn't, and he still refused to bring them back. I immediately called the cops to file a police report and waited until the morning to call his work. I gave them all the details, including the case number, and said I'll be coming with an officer to get my books back from Jay that day. His workplace cooperated with me and promptly fired Jay after I got my books back. Jay claims that I went far too overboard for a few books and demands that I give him money until he finds finds another job. Am I the jerk? So, what Jay did was absolutely not cool at all. He stole from you, and that's really messed up. I'm not sure on the evaluation of these books or sentimental value, and honestly, I'm not even sure if it matters. You asked him to give them back, and that should have been where the story ended, really. He should have been like, okay, I'm sorry I took them, here you go. The fact that he refused to give them back is really messed up. Calling the police for it? That's a lot, but I don't think, terribly unwarranted. I don't know. I don't know how much these books go for, so maybe it was perfectly reasonable. And in fact, most of it was perfectly reasonable, so not the jerk. Am I the jerk for telling my wife I'm tired of raising a kid that's not mine? I, 31M, am married to my wife Amber, 30F, and we have a daughter, Emma, 7F. The problem is my wife's best friend Jennifer, 30F, has a daughter as well, Harper, 7F. Well, Harper's dad is a lazy sack of crap and refuses to do anything with his daughter. He is the type of guy that brags about how he never changed a diaper. Jennifer and Harper are usually at mine and Amber's house on the weekends because Harper's dad is drinking and watching sports. On Saturdays, I normally spend all day with my daughter because I don't see her as much as I want to during the week. However, with Harper being there every Saturday, anything I do with Emma has to be done with Harper. If I want to take Emma to the zoo, it's Emma, Harper, and I. Taught them both how to ride bikes, take them both to dance classes, take them both to the kids' salon, and so on. Mother's Day was the last straw. I took them both to dance class Saturday morning. Amber and I also pay for both dance classes because the deadbeat won't. On the way home, Emma asked if we could stop to get something for Mom for Mother's Day. I said sure, but then it ended up that I had to buy something for Harper for her mom as well. On the way home, I just kept thinking about why am I buying someone else's wife a Mother's Day gift? That's his job. A few days later, because I didn't want to ruin Mother's Day, I told my wife that I am tired of raising Harper. Her real father needs to step up. I'm tired of it taking away time that I get to spend with Emma. She said that Jennifer is her best friend and we need to be there for Harper. Now she isn't speaking to me and sleeping in the guest room, so am I the jerk? Just wanted to add some updates to questions I see. Emma and Harper are best friends. It was my idea to spend Saturday with Emma. I work more during the week, so I wanted to spend Saturday with Emma and to give my wife a bit of a break. We pay for things because Jennifer's husband thinks it's a waste of money to pay for dance classes and Jennifer can't afford to pay by herself. Jennifer and Harper do things with Amber and Emma 1 or 2 times a week together during the weeknights. Buying someone else's wife a Mother's Day present because their father won't. That's pretty bad. Also, being the type of guy that brags he never changed a diaper. Yeah, this guy is super sucks. If anything, he is the super jerk. I don't think that OP is the jerk whatsoever. He's done so much for 2 children and one of them isn't even his. When I first read this title, I was like, oh, is this like a stepdaughter kind of thing or like a daughter that was from a previous marriage? But no, it's not like that at all. This other dad just kind of sucks. Not the jerk. Am I the jerk for answering a rude question with a rude question? I'm a happily married gay man, and yesterday, my husband and I were at a friend's house celebrating their birthday. At the end of the party, a small group of people were sitting around the fire talking crap when a woman who I don't know, friend of a friend type thing, asked me and my husband straight to our faces, "So, do you like being railed, or is it your husband?" And before you all ask, no, she wasn't drunk. In fact, she was the designated driver. I replied, "Do you like to bang on all 4s or on your back?" She got mad and stormed off, calling me a prick. At the time, everyone there laughed. Most were drunk. But the woman was my friend's girlfriend's relative of something, and now he and his girlfriend are getting some backlash. He's mad at me now because even though what she said was offensive, I didn't need to stoop to her level. I'm starting to feel bad because the last thing I wanted was to cause trouble for my friend. So, am I the jerk? Okay, look. I know that an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. That being said, being gay, I'm sure you faced discrimination a lot in the past. So, snapping back, honestly, it wasn't even that bad. You basically asked her what she asked you, and even if she thought it was a genuine question, then you asking it back also should have been a genuine question. It was just you revealing a double standard in a, admittedly, not so couth way. I don't think that there's really any way you could be the jerk here. If anything, like a little rude, but yeah, not the jerk. Am I the jerk for telling my parents I'm willing to sell them my forgiveness? My parents expected me to be independent the minute I turned 18. They gave me the money they'd saved up for my education, and then they started charging me rent. I was lucky enough to have a partial scholarship and I found a job in the city my university was in, so I moved there before the school year began. With my parents' money, my scholarship, and my wages, I was able to scrape by. I rarely, if ever, spoke with my parents. I was kind of busy. I guess they decided that they didn't want that kind of relationship with my younger siblings because they were not presented the same option. They both lived at home all through university and even afterwards. I'm 34 now and with a decent job, and a great girlfriend whom I will be marrying this summer. I sent my parents and siblings an invitation invitation. They called me to ask why they weren't involved in the wedding. I responded that they hadn't really been a part of my life in 16 years and that I was being nice by inviting them. They said that they acknowledged that they made mistakes when I was young, but that was in the past and that I should get over it. Against my fiance's advice, I sent them an itemized bill for everything I paid for myself that they freely gave my brother and sister. I said if they wanted to be a part of my life, they had to ante up. They said that they can't afford that because they're still in debt from helping my siblings out. I laughed at that and said I hoped that I would see them at the wedding and hung up. My family are all getting a hold of me to let me know how much I'm hurting my parents. The thing is that I don't want their money, and I don't want anything from them at all other than their attendance at my wedding. If they can't do that, then I'm fine with our yearly phone call. So, this might be a bit of a hot take, but bear with me. I think OP is the jerk here. I don't think OP is the jerk for not including them in the wedding planning or anything like that. I think that's super fair. They weren't involved in his life for a while. OP is the jerk because of the way that they went about it. The itemized list of things they gave his siblings and not him, that just reads as super petty. They absolutely treated you unfairly. That's without question. But essentially what looks like to them asking for money for it to make it all better, even though you state later that that's not what you wanted and you just want to prove a point or something, that's just low. They apologized and said they want to reconnect with you. And the thing about like estranged family, from my understanding, I don't have any personal experience, but I know people who have, is that you don't want to let them like have it all back. It's not like, oh, you were my parents all along and you treated me so well all along. It like comes in stages and you have to work up to it, of course. But if they're recognizing they made mistakes and they're genuine about it, doing what you did was kind of just a jerk move. Now, you're not obligated to let them back into your life or anything, but the way you went about telling them no, essentially, it was pretty jerk-ish. Of course, if anyone disagrees with me, just let me know in the comments. I'm sure you will. Am I the jerk for embarrassing my father by offering to stop telling my children that I love them? I call my kids boy, 15, and girl, 16. I love The Simpsons, and I always thought it was funny that Homer referred to Bart as boy and Bart called him Homer. With my father, everything was yes sir, no sir. I also constantly tell my kids that I love them and am proud of them. For some reason, the name thing puts a wild hair up my dad's butt. He was over last weekend, and he was vociferous about how I'm hurting his grandchildren by not calling them by their names. I told him that my kids were happy and to leave it alone. He just wouldn't drop it. So I called my kids over to where we were talking and I asked them if they wanted to be called by their names instead of boy and girl. I said in return they would have to call me sir, not daddy or dad. I said I would accept father in emotional conversations, but that I would no longer remind them every day that I loved them and was proud of them. They both said that they were happy with the status quo. They know what my relationship with my father is like. My father got all upset and said that's not what he wanted at all. So I asked him how often he told my sisters and I he loved us or was proud of our accomplishments or just as people. He said it was a different time, that his father was worse than him. So I asked him if he thought my kids were happier than myself and my sisters growing up. I pointed out that my kids are happy. They are reasonably well adjusted. Now he's being pissy, and my mom says that he's upset that I think he was a bad father. He wasn't, he was just emotionally distant, and I hated it. My sisters both had some therapy to help them choose better men. They both fell in love with any guy who gave them attention. My daughter knows her worth and won't settle for anything but the best. And my son has no problem hugging me and telling me or his mom about his life. They are teens. I don't know everything going on with them, but I do my best to be there and give them the support that I never had. My kids know that they are loved. I don't just say it, I try my best to show it. My dad thinks I'm being a jerk for pointing out where he didn't do great as a father when he tried to criticize my parenting. This story went off the rails fast. I thought it was just going to be about the names thing, and then it was a whole like, oh, dad, you didn't raise me right, and then it's like, well, no, you raised me right, but I mean, like, you didn't love me or show me you love me enough. Crazy, absolutely nuts. Honestly, I don't even know where to start because of all the stuff that was going on. It was definitely weird of the OP to talk to his children and not just be like, oh, do you want me to not call you boy and girl, but to go all the way and say, you have to call me sir, and I would no longer tell you that I love you. That's just weird. Seems like you have some deep-seated trauma as well, and you could have used some therapy that your sisters had. In short, I get that you're trying to break generational trauma, and that's really great. It seems like you brought it up at a not-so-great time or in a not-so-great way, but I don't think that makes you the jerk. I'm almost 50-50 on this, actually. It's weird. I'm definitely leaning towards not the jerk, but what he did was kind of just uncalled for given the context. Like, it would have been perfectly fine for him to just be like, hey kids, you want me to call you by your names instead of boy and girl? And they would have said no, and then it would have been done. So yeah, not the jerk, but I have some reservations. Am I the jerk for telling my parents I won't be their live-in babysitter or take care of my baby sibling for them? I, 16F, am an only child and that position will be expiring in October when my parents have their second child. They were always supposed to be one and done with me, something I was aware of partly due to them finding childcare ridiculously expensive and my mom enjoying her job too much to stay home. I think another part of it is they are not very natural parents and are pretty much entirely hands-off. We never do anything as a family and they're not very involved in my life. They pay for stuff and that is the limit of their contribution to my life. The pregnancy was a big shock for them and for me. I heard them discussing what in the world they would do, and my mom was repeatedly saying that she was not going to stay at home and she was not going to take much maternity leave. She wants to be back at work ASAP. They complained about how much it would cost to get someone to watch the baby while they work and during the summers and stuff. I heard them mention me, and I was like, oh, hell no. They sat me down a week ago and told me they had these plans for me to watch the baby for 3 to 4 hours after school until they get home from work. It would involve me quitting all my after-school stuff and not hanging out with my friends after school either. They also want me to stay home next summer and to consider hanging around to be there for the next few summers. I was like, no way. They told me I'm going to be a big sister now and that as part of the family, I have responsibilities. I told them that they had responsibilities as parents and I am not a parent. I am a child in their house. They told me, not for long. I said I could just rush to graduation and leave so they couldn't use me as free childcare. I don't think they expected these reactions from me or the thought I had put into it. After I heard them talk with each other, I found out I could graduate in December by talking to my guidance counselor. I'm almost finished my junior year now and could finish senior year early with the grades I keep and the work I do. That is definitely the most appealing option to me, and I'll be 17 in a couple of weeks anyway. My parents were really unhappy with me and they told me I'm going to miss out on so much by doing this. I told them I won't take care of or raise their baby for them. I have my own life and being stuck with a baby is not part of it. They told me I'm being incredibly selfish and to think about what I'm throwing away. They also said I won't be a very good sister if I refuse to be part of the baby's life. Am I the jerk? Holy narcissistic parents. So if I'm understanding this right, your parents were surprised by the pregnancy, so it was basically them refusing to use protection and reaping the consequences. I get that not all birth control is 100% effective, so if that's the case, then it gets a little messier. But for ease of it, I'm just going to assume that they didn't use protection. That is 2000% not OP's problem, right? OP has a life to get on with, and these years are like the most formative for the future. So I think it's super important that they get on with their life in the way that they want to. Imagine being told that you have to ruin summer plans in college or whatever because your parents had a child that you obviously didn't ask for or expect, and they expect you to take care of it instead of them. So your entire college, well, not entire, but like half of your college life just gets upended. Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. When you're an adult, get out of there, OP, not the jerk.